Welcome, 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 everyone. How is that for the time for the Neil Appeal show on tonight? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on over. We have two lovely guests tonight. Sister Charlotte and Bridget have come to share with us tonight. So I hope y'all are ready. Bridget and Charlotte, we're going to give them just a couple of minutes to get on. We got a couple of guests on. They'll still come. They're used to Tuesday nights, so they probably wondering what's going on tonight. But y'all know what tomorrow is. It's the last day of the year. And so I dare not go up against God on, the Neil Hill show is on Tuesday nights, but I don't compete with God. That's going to be the night that everybody's supposed to be going in to the church house and their last time in the church house. Yeah, I'm not competing against that. So I just moved the day over.
Okay.
So let's get started. Thank y'all so much for coming out tonight and being so willing to share. This is a touchy subject. It's your life. It's your new life.
Yeah.
And it's touchy, especially around the holidays. And so just being obedient, God has been like ordering my steps for each person, Lord, who we doing next? Who we supposed to do next? And when I funk it strange, when it was clear that he was like widows and widowers, and it's around the holiday. And it was just like, wow, this may be a good time for y'all to share, because we love y'all and we're praying for y'all, and we want you to know that you're not alone. And so to me, it was perfect. Like, yes, Lord, let them talk, let them discuss during this time, because we know that, you all have to create these new memories and things like that. And it's hard around this time. And so two widows that we had on last week said it was very encouraging for them to just talk and, be able to share that space, especially during that time. So that's just, hey, that's from God, right? And it's going to work out. I don't question him, right? And I'm just so glad that you all answered the call. Me being obedient.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get started. So before we get into you all's stories, I would like to start off with fond memories, one or two, if you could share. Sister Charlotte, we're going to start with you first, right? A fond memory or a pet peeve or something like that, something that brings you joy when you think of something that your husband did or didn't like that you did, or, something like that. Go ahead on and share a fond memory with us before we get started into your stories.
Okay. We met in 1998 at some friend's house for a cookout. But when we started going out, he always had on a plaid shirt. And this was 98. But one of the things I told him, I said, we got to change your wardrobe. You know, have to wear plaid all the time. We got to change your wardrobe. I'm not sure if I said that. I didn't say it too early in the relationship because it was kind of iffy in the beginning. Our first encounter was not pleasing to me. But I decided when he finally caught me on the phone one night, he really talked like somebody who had a vision and had a pretty good mind. So I told him I would get to know him like microwave from the inside out, because the first impressions was not good. So, but I'm glad that I did that. I appreciate just getting to know him and then being in love and getting married. Tell your one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So one of my memories, or the thing that always brings a smile to my face when I think about Tori, is that he was the life of the party. Wherever we went, didn't matter if it was your fifth time meeting him or your first time meeting him. He always interacted with people. If we were having something at the house, I would actually have to um, rein him back in sometimes because in the neighborhood we lived in, it's a subdivision, and he was so friendly, and he would just randomly invite people over to our house. Hey man, we cooking out on the grill. You should stop by. You should come by. And I'm like, do we know them? No, no, I met them in the neighborhood. They coming by and babe, we good. We got enough food. We good. And I'm like, but we don't know these people. and he would, and he'd be like, okay, we're gonna get to know him. So he was the person that would go around the party. He pouring you drinks. You good? You need something? He wanted everybody to be happy and have a good time when they were in his presence. And he really put forth the effort to make that happen. And, that was just one of the things that I had to get used to is that if I came home one day and he was off work, there was a good chance there was somebody sitting in my house or on the porch that I didn't know. He made a new friend. So, but I'm glad that he was that person because he made me a better person and a more open person. So, they say it takes opposites, and I truly believe that to a degree because I was the person that you see the garage door come up, you see the garage door go down. I minded my business, I stayed in my lane. And he was the person that was walking around the neighborhood, making conversation with whoever he saw out. And so, we really balanced each other like that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, just you say that plaid was bothering you though, huh?
Yes. The other thing, when we would meet people, when we were dating, we would go out, we would always run into somebody that he knows, but I knew him already too. And then there were other people that he knew, but I didn't know. So he would say, give them my name, but he would never tell them. He just called them, hey, sweetie, or hey, it was always sweetie. So one day I said, look, why are you calling everybody sweetie? What am I? He said, you my sweetheart. I said, oh, okay. But the reality of it is he did not remember their name. So he always called them sweetie or whatever. He didn't remember their name. So
see there, and you was taking it the wrong. Look at there.
He don't make sure what's going on here.
Bridget, I remember when we were in over your house and you were telling us about the neighbor. You were like, wait a minute, hold on now. What you doing? Because he was always so helpful and he
was that
house.
Right. So he had came home from work and I heard a garage door come up. So I'm just kind of waiting around and, thinking he gonna walk in any minute. And so couple minutes pass. I'm like, well, where is he? Why hasn't he come in the house yet? And so I go in the garage door is up, he's not in the car. And so I have a neighbor, I live on a cul-de-sac. So the neighbor's house was directly in front of mine. And her front door is open and I see him coming downstairs from upstairs. And I'm like, what you doing in this woman's house? And why were you upstairs in this woman's house that is single? So I'm kind of standing at I was bold. I went and stood at the end of the driveway and I was like, hey, how you doing? And he came out cheesy, hey babe, how you doing? And so it took me a minute to recognize what was going on. The neighbor was getting a new washer and dryer set and her laundry room was upstairs. And apparently a young man had come and was buying her old set and he was having problems with the dolly with loading it and getting it down the stairs. And so he saw someone in need and he went over there and offered his help. And I tell you, that green-eyed monster of jealousy is real. Because I went from, I in a matter of a couple seconds, I was like, well, who was that? Why you over there? Well, you married. Why you in a single woman's house coming from upstairs? We need to talk. And As soon as I realized what was happening, I was like, okay, see you when you get in the house. Love you. So I just turned right around and came right back in the house.
That's funny. That is funny. Fond memories. Yeah, I just like to share, open up with that space so we can see your smile, see that you know, are being able to speak about them, smile about them,
Yes,
and go on still and push on. So thank
absolutely.
you so much for sharing that. It also makes me feel like I know them a little bit, more just because you shared that. So we want to go ahead on. Let's get into the story because I want to get to some questions that I think would help our viewers what they can perhaps gain some insight or learn from y'all's situation. So, Sister Charlotte and Bridget, y'all, let me just give you the context right quick. I'm new to, Fred and we're new to Raleigh, and they are both members at our new congregation where we are now. And so when I met Bridget, I was like, we always think, the widows, this happens as you get older. And that's not so much the case. As y'all saw last week, my peer, Nikki, it happened to her. And then upon meeting Bridget and finding out, I was just just devastated. No one is weighs more than the other, but it's just a whole different, like wrapping it around your head that it actually happens whenever. Like
Hmm.
we be thinking and planning for this to be down the line, but it happened and it happened suddenly. So Bridget, we're gonna let you go second. Let's let Sister Charlotte, let's give the wisdom the floor first, right? The aged wisdom,
Absolutely.
the saint.
I take that. Okay, can you see all the wisdom? Okay. My journey started in 22. Um, Joe started having a rash on his arm, all over his body, but it was under his skin, and we couldn't figure out what it was. He went to the doctor, and the doctor, he came back and he didn't have any medicine for it. I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Well, I'll be getting a call, a referral to a doctor." Well, the referral I got was for a neurologist. I'm like, why is he sending you to a neurologist? So we went to the neurologist where he had told, I found that the neurologist was examining Joe. My husband's name is Joe. So, and my husband kept saying, but what about my rash? He was doing all this stuff about his mind and said, well, what about my rash? And the doctor said, you're not here for your rash. You're here because you said you had some problem with your memory. He didn't tell me, he had told his doctor that. So, but I had looked it up and then say, why would a doctor send a patient with rash to a neurologist? And the only thing that came up, if they had problems with the liver. Turns out that was the diagnosis. He had cancer on his liver, on the small part of his liver. But during that process, my husband had a knee replacement surgery 12 years before that. And his other knee was acting up and he was not able to work doing security. He did security. And he had to go up all these stairs over at one of the schools. So we went to the ortho, and they first thing they said, they gave him a date, September the 20th, but do your surgery. But you need to go get some blood work. Where the blood work came up, something's high, something's low. So then we had to go see the nurse practitioner. And he said that we're gonna, I think it said it's aorta test that they were gonna do to check the inside. And it came up showing that he had a large mass on his liver. It appeared to be a large mass on his liver. So then they had to have a scan. So we had to scan it, but it confined it to the small portion of his liver. But during this time, everybody was going back to, they all just started in March. Everybody was going back to the doctor after COVID. So sometimes you couldn't get an appointment for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes even longer. So it wasn't until September when he got diagnosed, September the 7th, diagnosed with liver cell cancer. And by this time, it was stage 3. And he would have been a good candidate for surgery, but he wasn't because during the time from March up until this time, he had lost so much weight. Every time we went to an appointment, it was 5 pounds, 7 pounds, 5 pounds. It was constantly going down. And his calcium stayed up a lot. So every time we went to UNC, he had to do what they call an infusion to try to get that down. And sometimes his blood was low or had a urinary tract infection. And then they said that chemo, he couldn't have the surgery. Chemo wouldn't do anything to it because the mass was so large. So, and then the only other thing that they offered was immunotherapy that goes all over your body, kills all the cancer cells. And they would do that once a month for 3 months and then do radiation. Just said no, because even just the infusion would kind of break his body down for a couple of days. So my job was to support him with whatever decision that he wanted to make. And at that time, he was choosing quality life over being sick. You never know how it's going to. I mean, he was 70 years old. To me, back my mind, I said, I'll be fighting this thing. But I know this is what he wants to do, so I'm supporting him. And I believe that with or without treatments, God can heal you if you choose to. So that is what I stood on, knowing that it's in God's hands. I just need to continue to be the loving wife that I am, continue to support him and do what I can. And it was a journey that I didn't take alone. Church members took it with me, family members took it with me, because there were things that I had to do in the process, knowing that if he does pass, I got to get things in order. I need to go ahead and find a plot. CC helped guide me because she's in the funeral type business, and I had to go get the monument. And what I would do when I left to go do those things or go handle stuff at the funeral home, church members, different ones would come and sit with Joe. So he wouldn't be here by himself because it got to a point that sometimes he will fall. And sometimes he couldn't help himself get up. And sometimes I wasn't enough to get him up. And so I'm so blessed to have my son 2 minutes away from me. I remember football season had just started. And I had to call him that day. I said, I need you to come. I know you're in the football game, but I need you to come help me get Joe up. And he was able to do it. And we blended our families. So I ended up with another son as well. Joe had a son. They were the same age. They knew each other before we even met through another mutual friend. His son was in Sierra as well. My daughter, everybody did their part of whatever we needed to do. We were married 23 and a half years. So, something like that just kind of pops in. I had just retired. April the 1st. But I just thank God that he was able to be there at my celebration. And it was on my birthday, March the 25th. So I just had to work one more week after that. So he was there and even came up to say a few words. And he was kind of feeble then. But it was hard to see this man of stature. He always had some weight on him. And then just see him just kind of go down like that. But it was still my honey in there. That was my pet name. I never called him Joe. It was Honey. So one thing about us, this was our second marriage. He had been married 22 years. I say legally 22 years. I've been married 20 years legally. We both wanted this thing to work. And when I met Joe, he was not a Christian. I introduced him. His parents went to church and dad and stuff, but out of all the three children, he's the only one that never got baptized when they were children. So I remember him coming to I invite him to come before Labor Day, because Labor Day is when we had our family reunion at home. And I sent him pamphlets and stuff that we had. And I said, well, you can go. You don't have to wait on me. You can go the week before. You don't have to wait on me. But of course, he wanted to wait. And I remember us sitting together. And when it was time to pray, he reached over and grabbed my hand. This is a memory that I treasure. He always grabbed my hand and we were sitting down together. Whenever there was some praying going on in church, he would grab my hand. And that was especially on the first day. We just date now. I remember when we left, he said, I learned so much in this one sermon that I knew about the Bible my whole life. So he kept coming back. A few months, January the 3rd, 99, he was baptizing. And then we got engaged February the 13th, the day before Valentine's. And then we got married on August 7th in 99. So I don't think we know that death is something you cannot prepare for, but you have to accept the healing. I believe that even death, there's healing. There's no more sickness. There's no more just barely walking. There's no more, you're just at peace. So while I'm preparing myself, that I just had to accept it. I know. And then Brother Dublin, he knew the right questions to ask. He want to know what it was I thinking or where was I at when it came to if he did pass. But I shared with him that I know everybody has appointed time to leave, just like to be born. So I have to learn to accept that I don't know when it is. And then when it did happen, he really only really suffered was the day before, when he got to the point where he couldn't even eat mashed potatoes or get up out of the recliner chair to get on a transport chair. They had just came the day before. I just ordered it. And because when hospice started coming to see him, he was always sitting in this recliner, always, until that week, to that Thursday when they came. I said, the social worker came and the nurse came. I said, you're going to have to visit him in the bed today. So that's what they did. And then Saturday, I said, well, order a transport chair because he had problems even walking with the walker. So they did that, and it came right on time. And I had cousins that had came up that day, and he had a couple cousins that came up as well. So they were there when I needed them to help him get into bed, So I just thank God for the family on both sides. It's been very supportive. And after it happens, you kind of feel like, especially with his family, I feel like I didn't just lose him. I lost my sister and my brother too, because he had a sister and brother. Because the connectivity is no longer there. But what helped me is there was a grief call that I used to get on, grief conference call once a week. And it was so good to hear other people's experiences. And then I had the opportunity to share my experience as well. And when I started reflecting, I was like, I know it's got to be hard for them to call me when they used to talking to him too. So I just had to start walking in their shoes, step into their world and see what it was like, because they lost their father in 2018, 2020 lost their mother on Christmas Day. And here it is just a month beyond 2 years later. And then their oldest brother passed. So, but we've had the opportunity to talk it out, because I shared how I felt. And So, we're better now as far as trying to, encourage one another. That's what we have to do. It's not easy. When it happened, I woke up Sunday morning, and even through the nights when he was just sleeping, I would always check to see if he's still breathing. If I wake up through the night, and I had done it before that morning, and he was still breathing. But when I wake up and he was facing me, and his arms were in a different position, and it's like, oh, something different about this, and he just felt cold. He was cold, but he was transitioning. I didn't realize until later he was actually just transitioning. He hadn't got all the way there because we checked his. My son had a Fitbit watch, and he had a little pulse. And then his body's got warm after I had put the sheet of cover over him. And it's like, wait a minute, why is this man warm? But he was still transitioning. And a friend of mine said to just tell him that you love him and it's okay to go. So that's what I did. Yeah.
So wow, Sister Charlotte. Ooh, I got questions, but I wanna let Bridget get her story out first. Mm-hmm. That's what I was doing. I was jotting down when I was looking down. I got some questions for you, but I want to let Bridget get her story out first because the title of our podcast tonight is sudden and anticipated loss. And even though you were, praying that Mr. Joe would come through, you kind of had an inkling that something was happening, that it was possible that he may go. And so I want us to hear from Bridget because Bridget has a story that is not like, hers was, you know what I'm saying? And so we want to hear her, and then we're going to come back and, get some perspectives and get the questions asked at that time. So thank you, Sister Charlotte, for sharing. So sorry for your loss. Thank you. I'll mute you out, and then Bridget, you can come on and share.
So hey, I'm Bridget. Like Kelly said, my journey started off a tad bit different. Me and my husband Tori met in 2014. Well, we met in 2013. And he courted me for a year. When we first met, I was in OTA school and I was not thinking about no man. I had a plan. I was going to graduate and I was going to travel the country doing 13-week contracts, and that was going to be me. And lo and behold, that one day I went to the gym and met this guy, and everything just kind of fell into place. We met in July of 2013. He proposed in July 2014, and we got married that September. Because we were like, we both broke, and it's like, we don't have no money for no wedding. So what we waiting on? So we went ahead and got married. And we were married for 5 years before he passed, and it was a wonderful 5 years. He was truly a remarkable person, and I'm blessed to have had him for the time that I did have him. He was a corrections officer at Central Prison here in Raleigh, and he worked 12-hour shifts, worked 3 days off 2, worked 2 days off 3, that type of rotation. And so on the day that he passed, he was actually getting up that Sunday morning to go to work. And one of the things that made me angry after the fact, but through my journey of healing, I had to accept he wasn't even supposed to go to work that day. It was overtime. It was mandatory overtime. And I had said to him, because they were making everybody come in for all this overtime. I was like, man, I just feel like we're two ships passing in the night. Like, I don't hardly get to see you, because when they work 12-hour shifts. And that was if everything went well. Sometimes they had to work over if they had to take an inmate to the hospital and wait for their relief and all of those things. So he got up that Sunday morning. He had to be in line up at 6:45. Got up. We had a routine. He would get up, get his shower, get his clothes on and stuff. He would kiss me. At that time, we had an 18-month-old daughter. He would creep into her room and kiss her in her crib. And then he would be on his way. And so one thing that he did every single morning without fail was he would text me when he got to work to say, I made it here, because he wasn't allowed to have a cell phone inside of the prison. And so that Sunday morning, I had fell back off to sleep. And when I woke up, I looked at my phone. I was like, this joker didn't text me. Oh, he's slipping. What's going on with that? Next thing I know, it was almost literally within a couple of minutes, my doorbell rang. And it was a little after 8. And I said, who is this at my door this early on a Sunday morning? And so I go downstairs, I'm peeking through the blinds, and I see it's a law enforcement car. And I'm like, what's going on? So I open up the door, they're standing there, and I see his commanding officer. So now I know something is going on. And they're like, are you Bridget Rascoe? And I was like, what happened? What happened to my husband? Just tell me what happened to my husband. And they was like, man, we need you to unlock the door, because I had my storm door and I had my glass door. And it's like, man, we just need you. We need to come in. I was like, just tell me what happened to my husband. I don't want to hear nothing else. Just tell me where is he? What hospital is he at? Because in my mind, I'm thinking he got to work. He worked on death row. So I'm thinking he got into it with an inmate, something happened, he got hurt, and they're coming to take me to where he is. I'm already calculating in my head, who can I get to come over to get the baby? I need to get some clothes on. I need to get to where he is. And so they said, man, we just need you to open up the door, please. So I opened up the door and I'm like, come and get me. Where is he? What's going on? And it was like, is there somewhere we can sit? And I'm having this sense of urgency of what happened to my husband. I don't want to hear all the other things. I want to know what happened to him. And so they tell me, they said they sit me down and they say, ma'am, at approximately 6:10 this morning, your husband was involved in a car accident and it was fatal. And I said, I'm sorry, my tiny human. Come here. What is it? Mommy's in the middle of something.
Mommy,
What do you need? Because mommy's in the middle of something.
it's go downstairs.
Okay, get a blanket and I'll be down there in a little bit, okay?
To warm me up.
Yes.
Yay.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that. You know, parenthood doesn't take a vacation. But so they tell me he didn't make it. And as soon as they said he didn't make it, it was just white noise. I didn't hear anything else after that. And I just sat there. I was just in complete shock of what? What? Like, no. And it took me a minute to come around before I was even able to speak. And the officer there was like, is there anybody that we can call to come be with you? Like, just, we're not going to leave you here by yourself. And so one of my neighbors up the street that we had gotten very close friends with and stuff, I pointed the officer to her house and they went had knocked on her door and explained to her what had happened. And where my living room sits, I can kind of see the street. And all I can remember is seeing her booking it down the street to my house. She comes in the door and I just immediately made eye contact with her and I just start crying. And I just fall apart. And she came and helped me get myself together. And honestly, things just kind of turned into a blur. There's not a whole lot that I remember verbatim. I just know that I had to call his mother. I had to call his sister. I had to call his brother. That is not a phone call that you ever want to make to somebody, to tell them that their child is no longer with us. And it was just a fog. His family lived in Virginia. They were about 3 hours away, and they got down here in record time. I had to call my sister and my father to let them know what had happened. And, everybody came. Everybody came. They were here. I could not tell you probably all the people that came through my home in the coming days after that. The accident itself was a head-on collision. The young man that hit my husband had fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the median, and hit him head-on, and he died at the scene. And it was just all surreal. I'm like, at 6 o'clock this morning, I was a happily married woman with a baby. Life is great. We laughing and carrying on the night before and everything. And now at 6:10, unbeknownst to me, my husband is gone. And I get a knock at the door at 8 something in the morning telling me, your whole life just changed. Everything that you knew before this is no longer the reality. And it took a minute for that to settle in. And then I kind of went into survival mode. I didn't have time to really process what had happened. At that point, it was, he's gone. I still have a child to raise. I got to get this together. I have a funeral to plan. I got to pick out a suit. I got to pick out a gravesite. I got to pick out a cat. It just went into business mode almost. Because things had to get done. And I was the one that was going to have to do them. And so within a matter of, that was on a Sunday, by Monday, I was already making phone calls. Like Sister Battle mentioned earlier, Sister Dublin, she is in the funeral business. So she was a huge help in kind of guiding me to what I needed to do, because I had no idea where to start, what to do, who to contact or anything. So they were a huge help in getting all of that facilitated and pointing me in the right direction. And so he passed that Sunday. We had the funeral that Friday. I think it was. We had the funeral that Friday at our church there in Raleigh at South Central. And, people were saying, well, why are you having the funeral so quick? And I was like, I don't want to drag this out. I don't want to still be in this space 2 and 3 weeks from now. And thankfully, we did have the forethought, the foresight to get life insurance and, plan for the woulda, couldas. Had no idea that it would come this soon, that I would be making those plans this soon, but it happened. And so it was a shock. I'm like, I was 35 at the time. I said, I am 35 years old. I have an 18-month-old daughter, and I really everything in me wanted to crawl in my bed, pull the sheets over my head, bawl my eyes out, and just fall apart. And the one constant was, I have a child. She's already lost one parent. She cannot lose the other. I have to pull myself together. I will have my mental breakdown later, but right now, my daughter needs me. And that's what helped me get through and to get up every day, because she still needed me. And I couldn't give up. Things went so fast in such fast procession that I really didn't have time to grieve. And that's a whole nother part of, once the phone calls stop coming, once people kind of go back to their lives and they're not stopping by as much, and people are settling back into their norm, and now you're left to adjust to this new norm, and you're just sitting there. It wasn't the people coming by, it wasn't the constant presence of people in my home. It hit me in the silence when it would be 7:30 and I know he's not walking through that door. When it was time for dinner and I'm the only one sitting at the table. That's when it hits you. That's when you're like, wow, this really happened. This is really what my life looks like now. And it was a huge adjustment. But I thank God that he gave me the strength and he surrounded me with the people I needed to get me through that. I tell people all the time, it was not my own strength and understanding that got me through that. I am not even going to be that brazen and arrogant. God got me through that with the people that he sent into my life to be there for me and to be there for my daughter. Because you don't get through something like that by yourself, whether it's in sister battles, situation where you knew you had a good inkling that it was coming, or in my situation where it was very sudden. You need a support system. You need people around you praying for you, being there for you. I had a best friend that she would literally just come and sit on the couch with me. No words were spoken. No, how you feeling? She would literally just drive all the way from Goldsboro. Oh, sorry. She would drive all the way from Goldsboro just to come and sit on my couch with me and hold my hand. And if I needed to cry, I cried. If I needed to scream, I screamed. And there was no judgment there. It was, I'm here for you. And that meant a lot. So, yeah, that within a matter of a couple of hours, my entire life changed. So,
Wow. Thank you both for sharing your stories. Mm. Life is so short. Like you were saying, Bridget, you were a wife at 6 o'clock, and at 6:10, you weren't. And that was his day. He was so off. So I know, we always can go up in our head thinking of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And that can be tough.
yes.
The both of you are still in the homes where your husbands, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been adjusting to, like Sister Charlotte, you said your husband was laying right beside you. So, you know, how has that been adjusting to that?
All I say is God is amazing because I it hasn't been hard, you know. And I don't, I guess because I don't look for him. I guess in the beginning, it's like you may look and see he's no longer there. But see, the difference in our relationship is that my husband worked different shifts. He wasn't always just a day shift that he would be there at night. Sometimes they worked second shift or maybe even third. And so it's not unusual for me not to see him in the bed or to go to bed with him because of his work schedule. So, but I asked myself, how do I do? How do I do this? And all I say, nothing but the Lord. And I'm not getting rid of this bed that we bought together because we bought the adjustable bed base and all that stuff, queen size. So it's not like it's separate like a king, but it I don't know. I I get up and I wake up and I got this window, a double window in my bedroom, and I say, "Good morning, Lord. Thank you for a new day, with new mercies, new blessings." And I just look for opportunities to serve other people. That's something I enjoy doing anyway, but look for the opportunity to do that. So I got two clients now. I call them client number one and client number two. People who need to go to the doctor or an account appointment. They don't have, one doesn't have a vehicle, the other one can't drive now because she had a stroke. So I just try to put myself out there and just reading one of those pamphlets that you get from hospice. They send you different ones about every 3 months for a year. And it's saying that you need to do little small projects. So I started doing little small projects around the house, just kind of improving some of the things that are going on that need to be done because you have to maintain your home. And because this house, it was built in '97. Joe bought it in '98, and we got married in '99. And I had a house too, but I bought it in '98. But I sold mine. Mine was 10 years old, but this was a new home that he had purchased. So, so I treasure, just being in the same house because this is where we made our home. And one of the things that two traditions we started because we blended our family. So we have everybody over, the children, the grandchildren, and some now that's extended to other people as well, that have become family or extended family. So on family day, we would have everybody here at the house to eat a meal. We have family day at church, so we come home and have a meal here. And so Christmas Eve, I continue that tradition. Um, so that's just to try to keep us all connected. And one of the things that I struggled with is going out to eat. By birthdays, we go out as a family. And then he's not beside me. So when they wanted to celebrate my birthday in March, I said, "Where do you want to go? What restaurant?" I told them, I don't want to go to a restaurant because I can't take another without right now. So we just did something at the house. They cooked on the grill and they brought food over and we played games. I said, that's what I want to do. We play some games. So that's what we did. But so it hasn't been a struggle to be in it. But what I did do is, how when you have a husband, you decorate it to be masculine and feminine. It's just all feminine now, you know. I just make it my own, you know, get a different comforter set, and you know, just do it the way I want to do it. And I had the house painted in most of the rooms. I got a few more to do now, but just do things like that. Oh yeah.
And Bridget?
I think that one of the biggest adjustments for me was acceptance. And I'm going to take a slight turn here, but I promise it comes back full circle because of the way he passed. It was very hard for me to accept that he was gone. And when you're not mentally in a place to accept something, sometimes your mind can start to play some serious tricks on you. And one of the things that, from the outside looking in, I knew it seemed crazy, but in my mind, to justify, to deal with this sudden loss, the things I had to tell myself, by him not being here, by him not walking through that door at 7:30, 7:45, was I went through a very dark period where I just couldn't accept it. And by him being a corrections officer and working on death row, I had literally made up a whole narrative in my head that he saw something he wasn't supposed to see, he heard something he wasn't supposed to, and he had to go into witness protection. I know how it sounds, but my mind needed some way to rationalize through this. I just could not accept that he was gone. And I was like, he can't, they're getting him settled. He can't reach out to me right now. He can't go, they're watching me. I can't have contact with him right now, but he's going to come back for us. He's going to come back for me and Ayla, and it's going to hurt to leave my family behind, but at least I'll have him back and we'll contact them when it's safe. Like, I literally had this entire narrative made up in my head because I could not wrap my head around the fact that he was gone. I saw this man in the casket. I touched his body. I had even made up in my mind that it was a body double because they had to make it look real. Like, I just couldn't. I just could not. Every creak in the house, every time it steps, it was, that's him coming. I got to be ready. That's when I knew I needed to get therapy. And I'll tell anybody, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist, because I needed that, because I was like, I'm losing it. I am going off the deep end. I've lost my husband. I cannot lose my child too. I have got to get myself together. And I confided in a friend, and she was able to get me in touch with a therapist, and I started grief counseling. And I will tell you, there are things that was said in those sessions that only me, her, and God would ever know. But I needed to get it out. And I needed to come full circle to that reality that he's not here. That adjustment of he's not coming through the door. And, to lighten the mood just a second, Tori was the cook. He was the person that went to the grocery store, that made up the menu. I just sat down to the table and ate. So and I'm sure Sister Battle can, identify with this. It be those little things that it's a song, it's a smell, it's a thing that they used to do that is not there anymore. And I literally had a almost complete breakdown in Walmart. It was the first time I had to go grocery shopping after he had passed. And let me say this, the support, the food, the supplies, the everything that people had dropped off, the amount of support was overwhelming. I literally did not have to step inside of a grocery store for about 3 months. after he passed. There was so much stuff. The people in my neighborhood had did a dinner tree where twice a week different people would just come and drop meals off at my house and say, we know he was the cook, we know you don't cook, here's something. And it was so appreciated and needed. But the first time I went and had to grocery shop, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know what to get. I didn't know what to buy. He did that. He made the meals. I was the person that there could be a pack of pork chop and a can of peas. I'm like, we ain't got nothing to eat. And he was the person that was like, yeah, we do. We got a whole meal. And I realized, oh my gosh, he's not here. And I don't know what to do. And I got to feed myself. I got to feed my child. I don't know what to make. And I stood in the middle of Walmart and just lost it. I just broke down crying to the point where people were like, ma'am, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, no. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And people were like, well, is it something I can help you with? And I was like, no. And, I kind of got myself together and, picked up a couple of things and hightailed it out the store because it was so emotionally triggering to be in that store because I was like, this was his thing. And now I have to do this. I have to figure it out. And I don't know what I'm doing. And it was one more thing to adjust to of this is your new norm and you got to figure it out. And it was something so small, but yet so significant that, wow, this things have truly changed. And like I say, you have to figure it out. Life doesn't stop. You have to go on. And I mean, I guess that's it. Like life doesn't stop. And you got to figure it out. And, eventually I did. I'm still not the best cook in the world by any means, but I'll keep you alive. So, things have definitely gotten better over the years, but grief is not a linear process. It is not something that is a microwave process. You just have to go through it.
Yes. So Bridget, the things we take for granted, just thinking about you in the grocery store, just the things that we on a daily just take for granted. Wow, this is helping me. What do you wish that married couples, single people, whatever, would understand about the fragility or beauty of life together?
To understand that you may not have the time that you think you have. Because we go through life, when we think about people passing, we think about older people. You never think that, or even when you hear about young people passing, you never think it's going to be you. You never think it's going to happen to you. But in reality, the next breath isn't even promised. And so I would tell, if I could impart one piece of advice to couples, it would be enjoy each other. Make time for each other. Spend that time with each other. And I know people are in different seasons of their life. You have children, or you're raising grandchildren, or you're empty nesters, or whatever the situation is. Make time for each other, because you never know when the last conversation is truly the last conversation. And one of the things that me and Tori always did was, no matter what we had going on, no matter how mad we was, because of course we're human and you're gonna have disagreements and arguments, and oh, I wish if I could kill you and bring you back, I would. That's how mad I am with you right now. But we never went to bed angry with each other. And now there was some nights that it'd be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and we both got to get up and go to work, but head did not go. And so, yeah, I would just say enjoy each other, enjoy the time. And that life is precious, life is fragile, and don't take it for granted. Yeah.
It's unimaginable to lose someone so suddenly. Like you're saying, we don't think of that. We all leave the house in the mornings and we're going wherever we're going, and we plan to be back. We plan to come back and cook dinner for the family. We plan all the things that we're just not thinking about. Whew, the sudden thing. Yeah, that's really, life is so short. Let me pivot to Sister Charlotte right quick as I get myself together. Uh, Sister Charlotte. Um, my sister was like the caregiver for like my mom, my dad, and sometimes that can be tough and rough because the person that is right there closest to you doing the caregiving always kind of takes the punches mostly, right? Your husband was ill. Was there did that did your dynamics change in the relationship as you were caregiving and knowing possibly that this this could be, his days are coming to an end? Like, was there a shift or a change in the relationship during the caregiving?
Actually, he was a great patient. And I know the first time he said something to me, I was trying to help him to get up to go get in the shower. And he said, "Why are you pushing on me?" I said, "Excuse me, I'm trying to help you." But I found out it was a urinary tract infection that can cause people to act out like that. Because this was way out of character for him. He never would have did anything like that or said anything out of way like that. So the next time that happened, I told hospice, I said, check in for urinary tract infection, please. But we were going to UNC that day, so she said get them to do it because they'll get the results back right then. And sure enough, he had one. But for the most part, he was gentle. He was a good patient. The dynamics changed because some things that just we ordered a shower, a walk-in shower, so they could change ours out to one you can step in. But supply was real slow back then during COVID. So he didn't get the call until the week after it passed that they were ready to come put it in. So I always had to try to help him get in the shower. But he really wasn't a bad patient. Oh, I remember we had gone to Lowe's to take something back, to pick up some wood glue. But we had to go to the one over there by Sam's on Capitol. And when he was going to wait in the car, then he decided he needed to go to the men's room. So I said, okay. So I stayed in the back and we were walking back out. And he said, I wish I could walk. I said, honey, you are walking. You're walking slow, but I'm holding your hand. We're walking together. I said, some people are in wheelchairs, but you're not like that. I know you wish you could walk better, but you're still walking. And I appreciate just you being able to walk, and you don't have to walk fast. So things like that. But I'm going back to what I want to piggyback on something that Bridget said, that for Joe and I, we never left anywhere without kissing each other and saying, I love you. Because the reality of it, you don't know that you're going to come back. You don't know what's going to happen in the process. And then, like, sometimes when he worked different shifts, like a lot of times I be driving to church by myself because maybe he has to come back so he can go to work. But any opportunity I had to ride in the car with him, even if we're going to take the trash to the dump, we were on a date. I said, I'm going with you, Oh, we can go visit his parents. It feels so good to have him on the other side, and I'm over here. So we just made the best of whatever opportunities that came our way. Yeah, and that was, growth process, Yeah, because in the beginning, Joe had a heavy voice. He was a bass. So I was somewhat fragile from a previous relationship, marriage. But sometimes it wasn't so much what he said, how he said it, and to me it just hit the wrong spot. So I had to conversate, have that conversation, say, when you said this, it really got to me. So can you just soften it up a little bit? but, so he did, he was conscious of it. And then I was conscious of the fact that he's not saying anything out of the way, just coming out. It's just me. I had to mend, So it took a little time for that.
So did you get a chance to, since he was, ill, did you get a chance to say everything you wanted to say, get out some conversations, or was y'all more focused on his healing? Was there anything that you felt like you needed to say that you never said, or anything like that? Did you get any of those things out with each other during that time?
I don't recall anything unsaid, but during his illness, he really didn't talk much. He didn't conversate much at all. And he was a talker. So that was different, to be in the house with him, and he doesn't say much unless you ask him about something. And it seems like the things that he used to like watching, he didn't want to watch it anymore. He loved wrestling. He didn't want to watch it. And just different things. Some things that he liked to eat, and now you don't like it. You rather pick up something. But I think that when the hindsight says that you just taste it different, because I understand that your taste buds change when you have cancer, when you're sick like that. But
Well, ladies, oh my goodness, Fred, you have anything?
No, I mean, I've heard Bridget's story. She kind of shared her story with Kelly and I when we went over to our house or what have you. What's crazy, Bridget, is you told us about where it happened at, and in my travels, I go through that same intersection, and I think about you and what your husband could have possibly done, didn't do, whatever the case would be. I mean, you can go through all those scenarios, just like what you said. You still waiting for them to come home from a scene to where, y'all had to go under, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So uh, it's kind of hard to relate to that or what have you. But at the same token, each and every time I go through that intersection, it's probably at least once or twice a month. I examine, what could have happened, what, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And I've never met your husband, and my heart goes out to you as far as that is concerned. Because, I mean, you just never know, leave home. And, you're not guaranteed to come back home, for the most part. and then your routine. Of course, Kelly and I have a routine that we actually do as well. But yeah, each time I go through that intersection, I think about you and your daughter and your situation, and you explained now that he was the cook. I mean, you might have mentioned that, but I mean, I can cook, but she spoils me, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean, this is my first time hearing your story. Joe sounds like a guy he and I could probably relate. I mean, Bridget was probably the introvert, and her husband obviously was the extrovert. He got to know people, spoke out to people, strangers, and things like that. So, but sounds like on Charlotte's side, Joe was probably more of the introvert, and Charlotte was
No, it
more
wasn't. He was not. No, it was an introvert anyway. He was the life of the party when he's around his family. Yeah,
okay.
he was a type.
That's kind of like me. I pick up around my family as well, and I love my family. She can tell you that. We have
and even the people on his job he used to work with, but that cloud he didn't work. He just walked around the building. Because he was the person they chose to hand out the check sometime or just do the minor stuff, even though he's supposed to be working on some of the machines. Right. But so they would tease and say, "Your husband didn't work. He did not work."
Right.
Well, we so appreciate y'all, and I just want to acknowledge your courage. I'm so thankful for your courage in sharing some deeply personal experiences that you have had with your husbands. Our time has been well spent. So thankful. Bridget, before we go, question for you.
Okay.
Your feelings towards the guy who fell asleep. Can you just touch on that a little bit and tell us how you were able to cope and get through or work yourself through
the justification process?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a very interesting question because when it first happened, again, you're going through the stages of grief, and I'm going to be very, very honest. I hated him. I hated him for what he did to my family. I hated him for how he changed so many people's lives in a split second. I like I said, you could probably imagine, but again, there were some things that I said in my therapy sessions that, like I said, only me, her, and God would ever know, because I had some words for him. I hated him. I was like, why did my husband have to die? Why didn't he die? It's not fair. I hope he suffers. I mean, I went through the whole gamut to the point where I was so filled with vile and venom that it was eating me up inside. And I had to eventually I had to figure out how to find peace in all of this. And it was not forgiveness, but I knew that if I die tomorrow with this hate and with this venom in me, I can't get into heaven like that. I can't keep holding on to this as much as I wanted to. And I was just ready for the day where the police came and told me that, and Jesus forgive me, but in the moment, this is how I felt, that he was so overcome with grief that he killed himself. And now I feel vindicated. And I had to ask God, please take this from me. Please don't let me walk around. It's heavy. It's heavy. And I don't want this. I don't want to live the rest of my life in this headspace. And so, we don't have a whole lot of time to go through all that, but through a series of events, and like you said, it was 2019, and then COVID hit, and everything that was not essential shut down. So, court appearances and stuff got pushed. And like I said, through a series of events, this young man disappeared. And we could not find him. And then that added the insult to injury of, you killed my husband and now you're going to jump ship? You're not even going to be man enough to own up to what you did and face me? How dare you? And again, it was that process of working through, and eventually I got to the point where I was healed enough where I could say, I have to make peace with this. And I have to accept the fact that they may never find this guy. And I may never get the justice that I feel like I deserve. But God is going to handle this. In one shape, form, or another, God is going to handle this. And I need to step back from this because I can't keep walking around with this on my chest. I got to let it go. And Tori was killed in 2019. It was literally October of this year that they finally found him, and he was finally brought to justice. 5 years later that it finally was dealt with, that they found him. And when they found him, I think they said he was in West Virginia, and I think he got, of all things, I think he got picked up in a traffic stop. There was a nationwide warrant for his arrest. And when they ran his name, they saw there was a warrant, and they arrested him on the spot and extradited him back to North Carolina. And full circle moment, and I had told you this, Kelly, the accident itself happened right in front of Walmart on 70. I was sitting in the parking lot at Walmart when I got the phone call that he had been caught. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, how ironic is that I'm sitting in the parking lot on the very same road that his life was taken. And now finally, I am going to get the justice for him. And, life moved on. Things have progressed in my life and stuff. But that was the one thing that was unfinished, that I was like, I'm never going to stop trying to get justice for him. Yes, I have moved on. Yes, I have been able to forgive the young man to a certain extent, but it was still that little piece of unfinished business. And to have that closure was everything. And to be able to say, it's done, it's finished, and now I can completely move on with my life and know that I did everything I could to honor this man's memory and to get the justice for him that he deserved. So, have I completely forgiven the young man? No, but I'm probably about 99% there. I was given the opportunity during the hearing to give a victim impact statement. And he didn't speak to me, but I was able to speak directly to him and just tell him how he just changed so many people's lives. And, one of the things that I not only grieved for myself as, oh my gosh, I lost my husband, but I grieved for my daughter because she lost a father that she does not remember because she was so young when it happened. And, I told that to this young man. I said, you have gotten married. You have gone and had children. I said, and I know it's been hard for you to be separated from your family. I said, but at some point, you're going to get released and you're going to go back to your family. Your life is going to move on. I only have a graveyard to visit. You will plan the birthday parties. You will do the donuts with dad. You will take the family trips and make memories. And I said, every time you do those things with your children, I need you to understand and remember and recognize that there's a little girl in North Carolina that would never have those experiences with her father because of you. And the fact that you were not man enough to own up to what you did, you're not here because your conscience finally got the better of you. You're here because you got caught. And for that, that's the little part that I'm still working on, that forgiveness. Because I was like, had you not slipped up and got pulled over, you would have still been living your life. Now, I don't know what kind of life you would have been living, but the fact that you were still living your life and going on about your daily business. So it also gave me that relief to be able to express that and get it off my chest. So when I walked out of that courtroom that day, I was truly done with it. It's done. It's over. What justice I could get has been served. It's time to, it's okay. It's okay to move on with your life. And that's what I've done. Something that you said earlier, Sister Charlotte, about, staying close to his side of the family, still communicating. That was very big for me. Tori and I, before we ever knew that we would have to make good on it, we had always said that if something happened to one of us, that we would always make sure that our daughter knew that side of her family. Because it's very easy for people to drift apart and, the phone calls become fewer and the visits become fewer. And next thing you know, you're just not talking anymore. So I have made a conscious effort to make sure that she knows who her grandmother is. She knows who her aunts and uncles are, that she gets to see them, and that I still have a relationship with them. Because they deserve to be in her life just like she deserves to be in theirs. And I would not ever take that away from her. And no matter where I go in life, no matter who I may meet down the road, she's still their niece, their granddaughter, and they still deserve to be able to have access to her and, form their own relationship with her. So I have made a very conscious effort to keep those lines of communication open.
That's good, Bridget. Thank you both. Thank you both. Thank you both for coming on and sharing. And I just pray that the couples, anybody in relationship, period, would take heed to your stories and learn from it. On our last widow's journey we walked through, they talked about the finances and, all the things that come with that. I didn't want to have the same, I wanted to come from a different angle this time. So I appreciate you all sharing, going deep into your stories. And Bridget, I'm happy for you being 99% at the forgiveness. I know sometimes we don't get closure with things, and we still just got to be okay with that sometimes. And I'm just so glad that you did get closure for the most part. And we'll be praying with you both as you continue to make new memories. I just wanted to quickly just read some of the comments, and then we're going to get on out here. Just want to let you know that you all have encouraged some people, and so I don't want to go out pointing some of these comments out that these people have been saying. Oh, Sister Sandra, she just lost her husband. She's fresh, like just a couple of months actually, and she was the first comment that said, "This is so therapeutic." So, yeah, if none of these other comments say anything like that, you've helped on this podcast right now today. Sister Sandra, Sandra, praying for you still. Sister Ira Booker said, "Beautiful." We got a lot of people that's just watching. We got some hearts and we got some likes that went up. Sister Carolyn, hey, Sister Carolyn Pinckney says, powerful message. Sending prayers and love to you both. Raquel, hey, Raquel, my high school friend says, Mercy. This is this Talia? Yes. This says, yes, you're still grieving after everyone leaves you. Sister Sandra back, I can relate to that, Sister Bridget. Phone calls and texts stop at some point. Yeah. Talia says, Jesus. Y'all were saying some stuff that I'm doing my best over here. I'm like, Lord, if I can't beat them crying, if they holding up, Kelly, get yourself together. You know, y'all have been saying some stuff. The unexpected is the worst. Someone says you were more prepared than Bridget. They were talking about you, Sister Charlotte. You had a chance to be more prepared, but it's still bad both ways, losing your spouses. Only when we are ready, no need to rush. So I'm guessing that's talking about grief, right? Oh, somebody said, I love you, Kelly, Franklin, Neal, and Fred. Thank you for doing this. That's so nice. I had to get mine in there too. I saw it.
That's good.
Hey, Keisha. Keisha says, this is good. Grief is real. And then we got one more long one, and then I'm going to close it out. Toya Nicole, that's my other classmate. Grief is a lifetime process. Give yourself grace. Seek a grief trauma therapist. Bridget already told us, hey, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist.
That's right.
We're all learning how to navigate through this life without them in the flesh. Y'all, we thank y'all so much. We love y'all and we thank y'all for sharing. I'm hoping that us, taking time to hear from our widows shows that we're supporting them and still love you both and love you all. We have way more out here. I had way more widows than I did widowers. The next 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, we're going to hear from 2 widowers and then we'll be done with our widows series. But just wanted to be obedient. God said do it now. And I feel that couples, we can learn from, their grief, the things that they're going through, the things that we're taking for granted, communication, like all those things that once they're gone, you don't get a chance to do and say. So if we could just take the time, like Bridget, they both shared some things that they think that would be helpful for us to be working on, since we are fortunate to have spouses still at our side. So y'all don't take this time for granted. Don't take their stories for granted. Love on your husband. Love on your wife. Life is too short.
Amen.
So we thank y'all. We thank you so much again. And we'll get y'all a link so that the people who couldn't see it can at least go to the podcast. Everybody, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. And we're signing off the Neal's Appeal. See y'all later.